So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us today. We wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyam Sundar Krishna Balaram, Pal Gopal, Gaunitai, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So we continue with the Das avatars. Today we wanted to talk about the Lord Ramachandra, one of the most favorite of the Das avatars, very, very, very famous, of course. A king called Dashrath ruled his kingdom from his capital, Ayodhya. He had 3 principal wives, queens. But not having any sons, he performed a yajna, from which a divine person came and gave him special sweet rice, kheer. He divided this sweet rice amongst his wives. And the queens became pregnant. So we're just summarizing it. It's a lot more detail, of course, how he split the sweet rice. But anyway, suffice it to say that Kaushalya, his eldest queen, gave birth to Ramachandra. Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharat. And Sumitra gave birth to twins, Lakshman and Shatrughna. Now, all of these 4 brothers are considered to be incarnations of the first Chaturvya. And, I haven't got the first Chaturvya here, but basically from Krishna comes Balaram, and then we have the first Chaturvya. Vasudev is considered to be Ram. Sankarsan is considered to be Lakshman. Aniruddha is considered to be Shatrughan, and Pradyumna is supposed to be Bharat. The 4 princes grew into valiant and chivalrous warriors. They learned the military art of fighting with bow and arrow under the guidance of Vasishtha Muni. Of course, their supreme lord, they don't need to learn. They're already full of knowledge. But as an example to everybody, they went to Gurukul and they learned under the guru called Vasishtha Muni, who was the family guru. So this is quite an interesting picture we're painting. 4 boys with Dashrath Maharaj. They became expert in the science of government, treating the citizens as their very own family. In the course of time, Ram married a beautiful princess called Sita, and they lived happily in Ayodhya. One day, as King Dashrath looked into the mirror, he noticed gray hair on his head. I'm getting old, he considered. After consulting the ministers, he announced to the citizens his intention to hand over the kingdom to Ram and to retire to the forest. Because of their love for Ram, the citizens were overjoyed and jubilantly prepared for the coronation. They swept the roads until they were spotless and sprinkled them with scented water. They hung garlands on the gates and doorways, decorated every building with flags, etc., celebrations. Not everyone, however, was celebrating. Within the palace, a wicked and a hunchback woman, maidservant, was consulting with Kaikeyi. Her name was, what was her name? Anybody remember her name? Mantra here. So she convinced Kaikeyi that coronating Ram was actually going to be a bad thing for her, for the queen. Now, Kaikeyi actually loved Ram, just like her own son. But Mantra cunningly persuaded her that actually Ram's coronation would be bad for her and her son as well. So Kaikeyi, she was very powerful. She was the favorite queen of the king. And she had been granted 2 boons in the past by the king, because she had been very brave in a battle one time. And the king granted her 2 wishes. At that time, she said, I don't want anything now, but in the future, when I want something, I will tell you. So now, when Ram was going to be made the king, she became very unhappy. And Dashrath, yes. Oh, am I not audible?
Yes, you were lost for a few seconds.
Okay, let me just switch on to something else. If I can, 1 second. Okay, come out of this. 1 second.
Prabhuji, you're lost again.
Hopefully that's better now. Anyway, he asked her why she was so angry. And she was so upset. How can I pacify you? And she reminded him of the boons that he had granted her. And she told him, I want those 2 boons to be granted to me now. And the king said, okay, what do you want? She said, firstly, I want my son to be made the king. Now, when the king heard that, he wasn't so upset because he knew Bharat was a very good boy. Of course, his heart was with Ram, but then the second demand by the queen was to banish Ram to the forest, because she was thinking if Ram remains in the kingdom, he will always be a competitor to her son Bharat. So better he is in the forest for 14 years. Now that devastated the king. He couldn't even live 1 day without Ram, let alone 14 years. This was shocking to the king. He couldn't do anything. He fainted, he collapsed. He never recovered, actually. Anyway, Mother Kaikeyi, she demanded Ram to come to the palace, and she told him the news that Bharat would be crowned the king and he would have to go to the forest. And because he was such an amazing personality, he didn't resist. He didn't argue with his mother-in-law, stepmother. He accepted whatever she said, and with a smile. When Sita found out, she said, I want to come with you. I don't want to stay in the palace without you. And Lakshman, he actually was really angry. He was ready to fight, but Ram calmed him down. And Lakshman said, okay, I'm coming with you then. If I can't fight, I'm going to come with you to serve you and Mother Sita. Anyway, they departed. Everybody was so sad. Everybody was so angry, especially at Kaikeyi. They were also angry at Bharat, although Bharat wasn't even present. He never even knew that this was happening. And when he eventually found out, he was really upset, especially because Dashrath had died from the shock of Ram leaving for the forest. Anyway, in the forest, actually many things happened. All the citizens went with Ram and Sita, but he told them to go back. They wouldn't listen. Eventually, they just walked away middle of the night. They lived a very simple life in the forest. And one of the things that they did was to protect the saints, the sages, meet the sages. That was one of the reasons why Ram went to the forest. He doesn't have to go to the forest. He's Supreme Lord. Why does he need to go to the forest? But he goes because he wanted to fulfill the desire of his devotees. Anyway, in the 14th year, something terrible happened. Sita was kidnapped by Ravan. The Ravan was wound up by his sister, Shurpakanak, who wanted to become close to Ram, but Lakshman cut her nose off. Anyway, she enticed Ravan. There's a beautiful woman in the forest who actually belongs to you, but she's just with an ordinary human being. And Ravan, being a lusty personality, sent Marich, who disguised as a deer, took Lakshman and Ram away from Sita cunningly, and Ravan turned up to kidnap Sita. Now, of course, Lakshman had put a protective circle around Sita. So Ravan, knowing that something was protecting Sita, because he tried to enter, but he couldn't enter, he disguised himself as a sannyasi, a guru, or a saint, sage, and he begged for alms, and he said to Sita, please come and give me the alms, the food where I am. And Sita looked at him and thought, there's no harm because he's simple sage. And he also threatened to curse her if she didn't come with the food. Anyway, she came out of this Lakshman Rekha, and Sita was kidnapped by him. Jatayu fought a valiant battle to delay Ravan's kidnapping of Sita to another Muhurat, which was a bad Muhurat for Ravan. Anyway, Ram and Lakshman, they were very, very sad, of course, because Ram was behaving like a human being. He's the Supreme Lord. He's self-satisfied. But when he came to this world, his behavior was that of a human being. Eventually, they sought out the help of Sugriv and Hanuman. Who, when he saw Ram and Lakshman, recognized that these are divine personalities. These are supreme personalities. And he surrendered unto Ram immediately. And then he introduced him to Sugriv. Sugriv had a brother called Vali, and they never got on for some reason. And eventually Ram defeated Vali, and Sugriv gave a promise that we will find Mother Sita. And eventually they did. It took us some time. Hanuman eventually crossed the water across into Lanka, and there he eventually found Mother Sita in the Ashoka Gardens, and he didn't immediately approach her. He sang the glories of Ram from a tree. Sita was listening. Who is this singing the glories of my husband? And eventually he slowly introduced himself, because she would have been terrified if he just came in front of her, because he looked like a Vanda. So, and Hanuman promised her that he will bring Ram very soon to rescue her. He wanted to take her, but she said, no, I've never willingly touched another man. And please ask Ram to come and rescue me. And Hanuman, of course, did his no more mischief in Lanka. He burnt it down, actually. And then he went to Ram. He told Ram where she was. They all marched to the ocean. And in Rameshwar, they made a bridge to cross into Lanka. And in order to make that bridge, they made a bridge of stones and rocks and boulders. They would write the name of Ram on these stones, and they would float. And this shows the power of the holy name of the Lord. And these stones actually are still there. in Rameshwar. Some of them, they float. So that's how they crossed into Lanka. And then there was a humongous battle between Ram and Ravan, the monkey army and the demon army. And many, many things happened. The demon army was very powerful. Ravan's son, Indrajit, was exceptional warrior. He defeated Lakshman. He defeated Ram as well at one point. Hanuman had to go and get the Sanjeevani from the mountains to revive Lakshman. And eventually, the monkey army was, they were victorious. And then Ravan and Ram fought. Now, God actually doesn't need to fight. Right? Anybody can fight for him. But sometimes God likes to fight. So he comes to our world and he fights. And he doesn't fight with just any ordinary person. Ravan actually, as we discussed a few days back, was the second of the births of Jay and Vijay. So Ravan and Kumkaran, his brother, were incarnations of Jay and Vijay. So they were actually devotees of Lord Vishnu, who was sent to this world to fight with the Lord. And Ravan gave the Lord a great fight, and the Lord really enjoyed the fight. Eventually, Vibhishan advised Ram, the weak point of Ravan is in his navel. And Ram shot a magical arrow, destroying Ravan's body. Of course, can't destroy the soul, because the soul is also pure living entity, especially Jay and Vijay, because they are from the spiritual world. On the orders of the Lord, they came to fight with him. Anyway, eventually Sita was then reunited with Ram, and there was all sorts of things that happened before the reunion. Ram requested Sita's for them to make a fire for her to walk into, to show her purity, which actually was very disturbing for the monkeys, for Lakshman. But there was a reason for it, because no one can kidnap the consort of the Lord. No one can touch Sita. No one can touch Lakshmi. So when Sita walked through the Lakshman Rekha, actually Agnidev came and took the real Sita to his kingdom and replaced her with the Maya Sita. So the Maya Sita was kidnapped by Ravan. And the fire was needed at the end, because Agni brought the real Sita back and the Maya Sita was finished. So out of the fire came the real Mother Sita. And then Ram, Sita were reunited, and they flew back in time. It's because they were meant to only be away for 14 years. And the monkeys came with them. The monkeys' wives also came with them. And it was a very happy reunion. And the first person Ram went to pay his respects to was Mother Kaikai. He was so gracious personality. The ideal king, ideal son, ideal husband, ideal prince, ideal father, etc. All the idealisms were within Ramachandra. And Ram Rajya was then established for 10,000 years. Sita and Ram were coronated king and queen. So even to this day, Ram Rajya is highly appraised. They want to bring back Ram Rajya because his rule was so glorious. So this is a very, very short summary of Ram, because time is not going to let us do much more. So I wanted to stop there. If anybody wanted to add anything, you can. Some Leela of Ram that really attracts you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, all the devotees. I'm sorry, but I didn't hear the last thing. How many years they ruled after they came back to Ayodhya? I'm sorry.
It is said that but Ram ruled for 10,000 years. Because in Treta Yuga, people lived for 10,000 years.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I know it's these numbers are huge.
Yeah, and we even don't know that how Ram passed away.
Well, he's God, so he doesn't die. He just simply leaves for the spiritual world. He doesn't die because he's he doesn't have a body like our body. His body is spiritual.
All right. Yes, as you say that anything you remember. Yes. I can remember. This is like from the Ramayana serial, like Sita goes to the temple, not to the garden, and she was picking up all the flowers, and Ram and Lakshman also goes there to pick up the flowers for the puja. For the Santa, is it Vasisht?
He was Vishwamitra.
Oh, Vishwamitra, yeah. And then they see each other and they fall in the love. That was like a really nice scene. I can remember. And the other thing was when Sita got Sayamvar, and father was saying that why there is nobody there who can be my daughters, who can break the bow and marry my daughter. And Ram and Lakshman didn't stand up because they were waiting. But this is all we remember. And when you know that Dobby, he say middle of night, Ram came out and Dobby say, why Ram kept Sita after she went to the
that's right.
And then Ram decided to leave her. That was like very sad scene. And he knew that Sita was expecting baby. When she went to the forest, Lakshman took her to the forest, and then Lakshman tells her, Sita Mata, that Ram has left you, and that is like really tearful scene. So those are the things I can remember from Ramayana. But today's episode really nice, really enjoyed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's a lot more to say, but anything you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhu, and Dandavat to all the Vaishnavas. Nitai Gaur Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Hare Krishna.
Very interesting and a lot to learn from the Ramayana.
Yes.
A few things is like there is a Sabri Mata. She's waiting for Sri Ram.
Yeah.
And there is an expression now like Sabri's waiting time. Something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Yes. And she's waiting and in a surrendered mood.
Yeah.
Serve the Sri Ram like that. And that's very understanding, and we should have some patience and you know, wait for the mercy of the Lord. And also
Yes.
the lady Ahilya, she was cursed to, her soul was in the rock, and then she was chanting still Sri Ram's name, and she was delivered when Lord Ramachandra touched the rock with his lotus feet, like that. So again, you see, in any condition, today we are in one condition and tomorrow we don't know. That is expressed in Ramayana, like Lord Ramachandra was to be crowned as a king of Ayodhya, but the next day he had to be exiled to the forest. But Lord Ramachandra taught us by example that we should be equipoised. Yes, and like Ahilya, she was very beautiful, and she was very like had a boon that she will be always 16 years old, young. However, some misfortune happened, and then her soul was in the rock. Anything can happen, but we continue with chanting Sri Ram, like that. Our Hari Katha, Hari Kirtan should continue, and no hindrance, no mundane situation can hinder our Krishna consciousness. So we pray for this boon by the Leela of Sri Ramachandra. Nitai Gaur Haribol Prabhu, thank you very much.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Really, really important pastime, important message. So many, I mean, Ramayana, you could probably spend years and years and still not even scratch the surface.
Yeah.
So much nectar here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Just,
Thank you
just
so much.
one point to add, Prabhuji.
Sorry?
Just one point to add, that when Ram and others, they took Samadhi in the Saryu river at the end of the tenure on this earth, and they said that they found Sita there. So at that time, Ram and Sita were united.
Yeah. That in itself is a huge.
Yes, I remember
huge,
that. In the serial, it shows it. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thanks.
Very good. This is quite controversial about why Sita was left in the forest, and we can go through it one day. And I think when we look at Ayodhya, we're going to look at all the holy places, different holy places. One of the places we'll look at is Ayodhya, and we'll discuss it at that time because it's not as straightforward. Because a lot of people think Ram was very hard-hearted to do that, but actually that's not the case at all. So we'll discuss that when we look at Ayodhya. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Ram Chandra Bhagwan ki jai.